And thanks for joining us again this week on Edric, Poon and Company, the podcast where anybody can inspire everyone. Now, if you've had dreams of living on different continents and in search of doing what you love, for example, if you've always had something holding you back, now I'd like you to listen in today. I'd like you to meet a friend of mine. All right, his name is Stewart Gatsi. He's born and raised in Zimbabwe. He resides in Hanoi, but he considers the world to be his home. So he's an independent musician. He's got his latest album, Songs on My Bike, available on Spotify, YouTube Music. Got to check that out. He's also an author of a book recently out on Amazon. It's called Rough Guide to the Planet Earth. So, Kwazi Wai and Xin Chao, my friend. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. How you doing? It's me here.
Great. So, I read the book. I completely loved it. And what was amazing for me was that it was kind of like a cross between 1,000 places to visit before you die and a hitchhiker's guide to the galaxy. So I love the fact
Yeah,
that it's
well,
so
I mean,
crazy.
my idea generally it started out as a journal, actually. And so that led into the whole book. Yeah, yeah.
You've been a construction engineer or an engineer in construction, right? You're a school teacher. It's teaching English overseas. Um, you're a musician. You're an author. I mean, is there anything else like neurosurgeon? What are you doing next?
Well, I mean, more specifically, I was working in architectural concept design, and that was working more specifically around building houses out of steel frame at that particular time. And then, so for me, what I realized was that I needed to change. Like it wasn't enough for me. I wasn't making enough of a human impact. So I just look for something that I'm doing, right? And I'd always dreamed of teaching English in Southeast Asia, for example. That was something I always wanted to do. I knew there'd be challenges, sure. And then I was always a musician anyway. That's something that came natural to me. And so later in life, and at different points in life, it came a point where um, I needed to use those various talents for myself to progress or survive or to move on to the next step. So in many instances, sometimes it's not that I chose music. Sometimes, like for example, in Vietnam, I didn't necessarily choose to start doing music. It's just that I needed an additional source of income, and then I decided to keep working on that, and that mushroomed into something else. So
Right.
so some of it, yes, was deliberate, but some of it just kind of fell into because I was like, okay, well, I have a guitar, I need to make money, so I need to put two and two together.
Right. Something that was interesting that you mentioned just now was that you already planned to teach English in Southeast Asia. Now, for us, this is something
Right.
very interesting because in Singapore, I don't know how many people actually dream of, let's say, for example, I wanted to do something in Dubai, for example, or I wanted to do volunteer medicine in another country, for example. But you from Africa, you're already saying that you wanted to go to Southeast Asia. How did you come about thinking of having such a dream?
I think part of it came from just having friends who had done it, and having friends who were doing it already, and so um, listening to them and how they talked about it, and what they learned from those experiences and what they were able to gain from it, I felt that there was something that I could certainly uh, contribute. That was definitely a way I could contribute to the world, because one of my biggest things, for example, when I was teaching, there are times when I taught um, public school, for example, and imagine myself walking to a lower income, Vietnamese Ho Chi Minh City area, and the whole school stops. Obviously, walk in, and so challenges like that, made it, it bit, a little more difficult. But then working with students one on one, and just realizing, oh, okay, well, we all have the same basic needs, wants, and things in common. That spurred me on to keep. So there are many stories and many small victories and friends as well. But I think mainly it was exposure to people who had done it and the way they spoke about
And
that pushed me to do it.
And they inspired you to want to explore these countries and these regions. Is that right?
Right, because I knew that I wanted to. I was a traveler by nature. I think once I traveled for the first time, the first time I left the African continent, I was traveling to go to the U.S. and so in that moment, the travel bit me, and I knew then that I was going to be traveling to my life. The only question when, where, and how, of course. But what inspired me was not only the way people spoke about it, the fact that I had my own hopes and dreams and goals that I wanted, and part of that was also to leave the biggest impression that I can on this planet.
I mean, did you fly into each country already knowing what you wanted to do, or did you just go because in what you've mentioned in the book, you didn't speak the language, you knew very little about the culture. Did you even do any research before just parachuting in like a like a trooper and just basically taking over?
Right. Yeah. So initially, my first travel experiences was as a student to go to the U.S. And then I was I think just kind of a naive kind of bubble, and I didn't necessarily do research because I was arriving in a safe people, in a certain location. However, as I got to travel more, I realized that research is important. And for me, the number one rule when you're traveling, going anywhere is number one, no law before you arrive. That to me is number one. Yes, you can always talk about other things and safety and things like that. But I think you need to know law and how you be treated first, and then you can move on to. So what I like to work with is I speak to other travelers that have been there, speak to other travelers that come from different countries as well, and from similar countries and their experiences. And then I put that together, and then I make a risk assessment, and I make my move.
So when you actually do put all this together, I mean, you were mentioning the first thing was law, and interestingly enough, in the book, you had mentioned that you had also been arrested because of something like that, and it was completely a misunderstanding, wasn't it?
Right. And something that is something as small as bouncing a check, for example, in the States and in the US, can land you in jail. So I think something like that, you can talk about ignorance or not knowing, but in the end, I think the only person responsible for you is you. We can talk about mitigating circumstances and everything else and misunderstandings. I think in that particular case, you have to know the law. I chose to share that because I think that that's something that maybe people won't necessarily know about. When going somewhere, I think you have rose-tinted glasses about this because it's new. Wherever this place is, it's new, right? So everything new and fascinating to you. But I think it's important to be cognizant of the surrounding factors and how society works in particular.
Agreed.
What I maybe is not a big deal in Zimbabwe or Singapore might be a big deal in the US. Yeah.
Right. The experiences that you went through, I mean, I without giving away too much that's within the publication, it's such a great journey that you've been to on so many different continents. And at the same time, I think that one of the things that I think the reader really gets is that if you're pursuing that dream of yours, you're not, half of it you're making up along the way. You kind of just pick it up as you go, and the other half of it is that all these things that bring you down, you have to find a way to bounce back up. Now, what were
Right.
those moments like for you? Like you went, maybe it's not going to work out for me.
Mm. I think what usually drives me more than anything else is those moments, those low moments, because I don't want to experience it again. So anytime I think about that, that spurs me on to do even more and to do even better and to strive to try, to do the best I can at everything that I do. I'm already competitive by nature, so I think that comes naturally to me. But then at the same time as well, um, one of the big lessons that I learned, and this wasn't something that I just found out on my own, were some simple words that somebody I used to work with at an engineering company, and I would always come to him with my frustrations and about what was going on and what I was doing work and in life in general. And he would say, you know what, you're justified in how you feel and you're thinking right now. But what I can advise you is that you should take those frustrations, channel them into something positive. Because when the world gives you raw potatoes, then it's time to make vodka.
Spoken like a true alcoholic. I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's part and parcel of the musician life, isn't it? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, well, it comes to territory.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of which,
Right.
your music is very, very interesting. I mean, there's no real category that I could put that in. I love the fact that you've got so many influences. I mean, I've heard reggae, I've heard rock. There was a little bit of pop in there, a little bit of soul in there as well, and a little bit of world music. So, where were all your influences from? Like, where did you draw them from too?
I mean, this is the thing. My influences come from such a wide variety of countries and continents. I was always a music person anyway, and generally speaking, I'm the type of person that even if I hear something in a different language, if I like the music, I like the music, and that will lead me to learning about what it is and what it means and stuff. So, um, so my influences, I definitely have a soft spot for rock and roll. I mean, that's from the classical stuff, all the way from Muddy Waters to the first proper rock album I actually bought was Linkin Park. But even then, before that, I was listening to the Doors, and then on the African continent, I'll listen to something like Salif Keita. He's from Mali. I just really love what he does. His fusion of African and rock music. And then from Zimbabwe, there's big Oliver Mtukudzi. Of course, he's a classic. And so and then you go over to Turkey and North Cyprus. There's a guy named, I don't know why, when I was over there, there was a guy named Serdar Oraç that I really love listening to. And that helped me to learn Turkish phrases along the way too. So I think I appreciate quality. Like I have a good ear for that. And I won't say I necessarily segregate, but I probably, lean more towards alternative meets blues / soul and a little bit of rock there as well.
Yeah, I love that idea, that you're not restricted to just one form of music or one style. At the same time, I mean, there's this what they call Pareto principle, right? Take 80% of what is good for you and 20% just chuck it. Or the other one is that take what is useful to you and do away with the rest. So you're doing exactly that, right? And it's helped you form along the way. But do you remember the first time that you started doing music and you didn't play the guitar at the first, and now you're playing guitar and singing live at around the world.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
So and once again, I talk about falling into different things. Um, I started out as a vocalist. I wrote songs initially. That was my thing. Um, and then I went into recording these songs, and I had a producer. My first serious producer. He said to me, "You need to learn guitar if you're going to be doing gigs, and if you're going to be a singer and a songwriter." And initially, I didn't believe him because I was spoiled for choice and knew many guitarists. I just call a couple for a gig, and we'd have it. But then eventually, I realized that I did. I had to learn. I had a show once I had booked, and then my guitarist canned at the last minute, and I lost contact because of that. So from that point, I started looking up YouTube videos. I typed in how to play guitar for dummies, and I just started playing. And I played every day, every single day, for at least 5 minutes for a year continuously. And I eventually got to a point where I knew basic chords. I could do rhythm guitar and do a 2-hour show on my own. So that was something that I knew I had to somewhere, and I wasn't going to get there without, with help of other people. Unfortunately, at that point, I had to do it on my own to move to that next level. So that was definitely a painful but rewarding journey. Like, I definitely put in my 10,000 hours on that one.
And from the start, you already mentioned that you knew it would. You didn't believe it at first, but as you started doing it and built that momentum, did you feel that you were a lot more motivated to keep doing it? And 5 minutes became 10, 10 minutes became 15, and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what I did was I just had a giant calendar. I wrote every single day guitar 5 minutes. So when I came from work, before I did anything else, I sit down for at least 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes would eventually turn into 15 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. And so that definitely played its part, and the repetition as well, and the muscle memory as well with things like playing guitar definitely helps.
Okay. Now, in your book, you mentioned ratings of where you'd like to be, in terms of the laws, the comforts, and all that. But one thing you did not mention is which places have the nicest audiences for live gigs?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, you're gonna give me some PC answer saying that it's all good. I know, but like, for real, like, every place has a different energy.
I'm actually not going to go PC. So the wildest gig I've ever performed at was in Hong Kong. I just there's something, man. Like, people in Hong Kong know how to party. I was performing live at this gig, and I had some backup artists, and there was a drummer as well, and we're jamming, and the place kept filling up and fill up, like it filled up beyond capacity. And there was a point where it got to, I looked out the window and I could see people sitting on the roof, and their legs were dangling, and I could see their legs hanging in the doorway. I mean, it was that full. And so eventually a policeman walked in, and he stopped everything. And so that was definitely like one of the craziest. Like, I don't play necessarily maybe what you would say hypo music all the time, but this crowd really had me amped up, for sure.
Right. And then, as an independent artist, right, in terms of music, I've always wanted to ask this: does everybody really start off with covers first, before it's kind of like saying, I'm gonna learn from all this, pick up the skills, get the essence of it, and try and adapt it and make it mine?
It depends on who you are as a person, but my journey was that I started off writing poetry, and then I turned this poetry into music. And so I started out writing original music, and that's what I prefer to do today. And I think that's personally a better route for both, as a songwriter, number one, and just as a singer, number two, because it forces you to create something where there is no. Covers are good for practice. I think that they'd be good to help to show you how far you can reach with your voice. So I personally would recommend that if you can, start with originals.
Mm. Okay, okay, okay. And I'm very curious about the branding right now. I mean, how did, when you first started, how are you putting it out there? What was your plan? What was your idea?
So when I started out, I honestly didn't think about um, selling a lot. I didn't think about um, becoming famous. I wasn't concerned about that. I'm still not concerned about that. My major concern is, number one, doing what I love, and have a platform to be able to express that freely, right? So to write what I want, and to say what I want, and to be able to publish books, and show my the world and my experience. Um, so I think for me, it's a passion, first of all. So it's something that I would do without necessarily getting paid for it, because it seemed that that's a part of it. Um, but then eventually, um, through exposure and through going to gigs and then speaking to people, I spoke to an individual once after performing at a show, and they said to me, um, "You don't have a presence on social media. You're a great musician. How are people going to know about you if you don't talk about what you're doing?" And I thought about the answer, and I couldn't. And they suggested, whatever it is you're doing and whatever platforms you do have, share it. So I just started doing my music, and so it started out with friends buying, and then it snowballs from there, and you other people performances, and then look for your music, and there's kind of a special effect comes from that. Um, so there's a collection of things. I think that number one is that you need to get rid of that fear. Um, and just, if you really want to do something like that, you're looking for people to look at your product, then you need to put it out there. And in my instance, I had to put the internet aside, and just focus on what I needed to do.
Right. And then how long did it take you to get the album done? All the artwork, the music videos, man.
Right. So that is such an interesting story. Once again, it's one of these things that I knew these things had to get done, but I didn't always necessarily know how to get there. And so the album, and I didn't know I was doing an album, right? Or my first sort of professional EP. I'd done an album in 2010 before, and that was kind of okay. And but then my first full professional EP, I didn't know I was going to do that until I met a particular music producer from the UK, who's based here in Vietnam. And so we recorded the first song that we did together, and then it sounded great. We worked on it for a long time, and these were songs I'd been writing for a while. And then after that, I had to find someone to do a music video. Um, and it wasn't necessarily a professional, it was just somebody that I I knew he was a friend from within my circle. And then he just said, okay, just pay me this much, I can get the camera, and just pay me a little bit of this, and then figure out the rest. So we did that, and the response of that video, the song is called "On My Way," was pretty overwhelming. I didn't quite realize, because at that moment I was concerned about getting it done, putting it together, and putting together a product, and developing better, which is one of my biggest things. So eventually that came together, but just doing that single, doing professional studio single, recording it, doing the first music video, working on the edit, and having the final released version, that whole process in itself took a year. And mainly that because there was a lot going on. I was putting a lot together. I was still living my life. I still had to buy groceries and just live a normal life. And then obviously dealing with finding the producer as well, I think is one of the keys as a musician. It's very important. And so when that was done, they realized, okay, actually we're onto something. We're capable of it. And then I lost touch with the first person that produced my first music video. And so what I did was I spoke to a friend locally in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam, and I told him, hey, look, this is what I need. I've recorded these few songs here. Of which the remaining 6 songs I recorded over the course of about a year. And basically I told him I had songs and I was looking to do music video, and music videos, and I needed a cameraman, needed a camera, and all that stuff. So the great thing that I like about being in Ho Chi Minh City is that number one, I think the networking aspect, great, and number two, if you need equipment, Hollywood style equipment, generally it's pretty reasonably priced. And so I decided if I could do that, then I may as well do my own screenplays and come up with the basic content and direct my music videos. Because if I didn't do that, like just the money that you would have to pay for externally just for somebody else to edit your music video it's just ridiculous. Sure, if you think about it in Singapore as well, it can be pricey. So learning that, I had to learn to do that. I had to learn how to edit and try to come out with a product that I want, and not come out with an accidental product. So the entire thing was a learning process for me. But I feel like I'm at a point now where, yeah, if I have a concept, from writing the song to developing and then to recording, obviously perform it, and then shooting the music video, the screenplay, directing and editing it myself.
Right. So what's next for you then? I mean, you've done all the traveling. I'm sure that there are places that you want to go. And now that you're doing videos as well, is that going to be another surprise journey for you? A short film, perhaps?
I mean, I've always had a fascination with film and photography, media in general. So it would explain why I am in sort of the guy in a public care. But I think the reason why I learned videos or how to edit and produce was mainly focused on the music. And also, even if you look at the book, it's more of an explanation. Yes, I understand different aspects of it, and I analyze many different sides of things, but it also explains how the music came about, and how it comes about, and the process that's associated with that as well. So part of it was to let people know the journey as well, because people just think, oh, you step into a studio, oh my God, you're famous, you're done, that's it. Wow, bada bing, bada boom. And that's not even close to, you know, the actual story.
Right. But do you get that recognition that you're looking for right now? You know, when you walk down the street, people are like, hey, man, it's you.
Well, do you know what I count as recognition is? Right now I'm working on promoting the book, obviously, Right to Planet Earth, and what I count as recognition is people actually, for example, reading the book and giving their opinion, or you know, checking out music. But for me, I don't think it's necessarily about the recognition. I'm not concerned about, oh, hey, I know this guy. No, I'm concerned particularly about, number one, doing love and pursuing passion. Number two, um, you know, having my goals, and number three, which I think would be one of the main things, is to one day be able to in a place where I can generate enough passive income from what I do, so I don't have to think of anything else. So there are those facts thrown in, but I think recognition and fame, for me, I don't think that that's a driver. I mean, it's not a driving force. I don't think it would turn me on enough.
Right. But what do you say to those people who say that passion can never pay the bills?
Well, my passion has paid the bills. I'll give an example. When I first arrived in Vietnam, I had a job and a place to stay for, I think, a week and a half or two. And I had my guitar and my clothes, and that was it. That was my luggage, guitar, and staying in a hotel. And I knew that I need to make ends meet for at least the next month and a half before I got salary. So I went and looked up the top 10 live music venues in Ho Chi Minh City. And then I sent them all my profiles. I called them, I sent them emails, and I bugged them until they got back to me. And 5 out of 10 of those responded, and I got gigs out of those, and I was able to feed myself and take care of myself for that time. So um, your passion can pay the bills, definitely. Obviously, context and situation is important, but I think your passion can pay the bills. It depends where you are and the time, and it's worked for me. So
Right. So the important thing is, I mean, what you're saying is that passion can pay the bills, but you really have to work your ass off for it. You really have to want it. You really got to go for it.
yeah, you do, and it's not like you. In the end, you know, a passion is not just, you know, people think you just arrive. And, oh wow, this is great, and you chill in a hammock and you sing away in margaritas. But that's not all it involves, you know, if you're a singer, singing a day, practicing your keys, practicing your notes, making sure you hit every single note every single time,
Right.
and striving to be even better than that. So so I think that there is work involved behind that also. Like some of the greatest sports men and women, you know, they, if you look at work ethic, it's pretty scary, at how hard they work.
Yeah, agreed, man. I mean, a lot of the time, I would say that we meet a lot of people who would say that, yeah, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. But when you look them in the eye, right, you know, you're cherry picking.
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely cherry picking because you
Yeah.
only want what's nice, you know, that comes with it, but you don't know the shit that goes on behind the scenes. You know, the amount of work, the sleepless nights, the amount of effort and learning you have to go to, the investment of time, and not only that, how
Mm-hmm.
smart you gotta be to work around. Like like what you're saying. Look, I don't exactly have the best. You know, this isn't exactly top top of the line Hollywood budget setup, right? So, whatever it is,
but
we
we have
wing
what we
it.
need.
You wing it, man, as
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
along. But what's great about this is that every step of the way, you're able to just kind of pick out what works for you, and you work on that, and it leads you somewhere. The important thing is that not to give up, isn't it?
Yeah, and you talked about before talked about finding a way to get done. A friend of mine when I was in Cape Town said that Stewart, you have a MacGyver way about you. Like we every time we think you're not going to figure something out and it's done, you somehow find a way to get it done. And I had never thought about this. I just thought, okay, we have to move forward. That's the mantra. You got to get it done. But I think that's something to kind of adopt, and that's a part of it. So like it comes a lot of it with just saying, for me anyway, it comes with saying your goal as to where you want to be, and then how you get there, or you can find different ways around there. The focus remains getting there.
Right. Now, that's the other day I was having this thought as well, about achieving your goals. One of the things that I forgot who said this, but whether you think you can or you cannot, either way you're right. Right. So, but the thing is,
Yeah.
it's also kind of like if you feed yourself with that positive energy saying that you can and you can do it, you feed that, it will continue to grow. But if you feed the other negativity, or the monster we call negativity, that will continue to grow. And if that grows bigger, that's why there are two demons inside of us. I can't remember, this is a movie that I watched. They're saying that there are two demons inside of us, or two animals or two wolves or something like that. But one is a good one and the other one is a bad one. So you
I
choose which
think
one you
that
want to feed.
yeah, and I just, if going through kind of the different chapters of Rough Guide to Planet Earth, you can see that there are different points where I could very easily have led on to a spiral of negativity and focused on everything negative around. Like there were many points felt like that, and those difficult moments for sure. But I think the most difficult thing actually in that moment, in those moments, is be positive when everything is crumbling on. Many people don't think, oh, let me be positive. Um, so I think that maybe comes with a way of thinking, and it's from experiences. But I agree, by and large, as far as the targets that I've set, uh, I believe I've been there most of the time. So that tells you things, versus the opposite way. If I was just, okay, this is not great, then maybe I wouldn't be sitting here with you. I'm still, I don't know, maybe I'd be living the Afghan in some way, which is also okay. But yeah, I feel like I would have maybe been less exposed than I am now.
Yeah, I've always wanted to ask you this though, or at least those full-time musicians within the creative line. If you are pursuing your passion 100%, do you believe in Plan B? Because there was this speech that Arnold Schwarzenegger gave previously, and said it's the speech that broke the internet, so they call it. He says that he hates Plan B because Plan B means that you're spending time thinking about how you're going to fail, and that means that you have a safety blanket. He hates Plan B. What's your take on that?
Right. So I'm more of a believer in the superhero effect, and this is a theory that I adopted, and this is how it works. So basically, I would working, when I got to Ho Chi Minh City, I'd be working in Ching. And during the day or during teaching hours, I would teach, and well into the evening, do all my work, my admin, your assessments, everything else. And then as soon as I'm done, I go downstairs to the bathroom, go off the formal clothes, and put on my superhero outfit, which are my gig clothes, pick up my guitar, and drive off to my gig. So, yeah, sure, you can talk about plan B, but for me, I think make it a part of your life anyway, so that, and I get what he's saying, that everything should be plan A, but in that instance, yeah, yeah, because if you look at it realistically, right, even if you're the best musician in the world, but nobody's heard of you, right, you need to work your way up. You need to go to some pre-shows who can hear you, and then people still start booking you, and you from there. So in the meantime, you need food. So you need to survive somehow. So I don't necessarily think it's bad to have another source of income. In fact, I don't think diversification is a bad thing at all. Um, so I would say scrap the plan B, make everything a part of plan A, and you can make it work.
I like that. Basically just take whatever failures that you've had and just chuck them into that same bin and just keep going, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you got to learn from it, for sure.
Yeah, great. Then on your end, what's next for you? I'm really curious. What's next for you?
So major thing for me right now is obviously, promoting the book Guide to Planet Earth, and I'm already thinking in line for a second book, because this is a series of books which is dependent on me trying, and obviously that's going to happen. So definitely a new book coming out, but in the meantime, before that happens, I'm currently working on the structure of an audiobook, which will take time, but I'll be getting a professional audio out, and then I'm also going to have an official soundtrack. So there'll be an official song for the book as well to come. So that'll be all hopefully in the next year to year and a half.
That's pretty cool, man. This looks like you've got all the marketing and packaging going on already in your mind. Got the plan going, huh?
Yeah, well, I think it's just all I mentioned in the book, in the preface of my book, I specifically articulate the main reasons for writing the book. One of those reasons was an ND, that's a near-death experience. I won't go into too much detail, but what I will say is that I after going through that, I realized that there's a list of things that I have to do. That there is a big list, actually. And one of my friends in Atlanta, Georgia, he calls me the human bucket list, but I don't, I wouldn't take it far. But that particular moment, you realize that I have a lot more to give, and then I have a lot more to leave on this planet, and I will say this again, the intent is to leave as big a mark on the planet as I can.
That's wonderful. Now, I have another thing that I've always wondered. They always say that everything in hindsight is 20/20 vision, right? Now, based on your learnings, what would you tell those who are like you, moving around, trying to find their place in the universe or in the planet, or finding something that they really wanted to do? What would you want to tell them in terms of what you've learned and how to move forward?
I think that you will fight many battles just to do the things that you love. It could be, I don't know, of maybe chess, or you love playing tennis, or you like taekwondo, doesn't matter, or music. You will have to fight many battles to do what you love, whether it's personally or publicly, or family wise. I think that people don't always accept you for who you are when you're doing what you love, because many times they want you to be a specific image of what they want or how you should end. So um, my advice to move forward from that is that be principled and know what you want, know what you're after, and know what you love. And then also, obviously, one of the most difficult things to find in life is what your passion is. That's one of the most difficult things that I think that many people have to answer. So that plays a big part into it.
All right. Thanks for that, man. Really insightful. I love it. I'm going to keep that with me too. That's part of the reason why I'm doing all this podcast. I'm stealing people's ideas.
Yeah. No, you're doing great. You're doing great at it. I think, and I think the podcast sound really great right now. I was really fascinated when I heard about you the first time. I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. So you should keep doing it.
Hey, thank you. I mean, the point again of all this is that I've failed a couple of times, trying to do my own business or just trying to just get something done. And then I realized something is that, look, I'm not the only guy who's doing that. And I'm not the only one who's uh, moving around trying to find information. So what could I do if I can't do it myself, I'll need to find somebody to help. And not everybody can help me, but somebody out there might just resonate with somebody else. So if I can do this, hey, it's for everybody else. Why not?
Yeah, and I think part of it also is just trying, right? Like one of, and I'm paraphrasing here. One of my favorite sayings or quotes is from Michael Jordan, and he said, one of the reasons I was so successful is because I failed so many times. I failed over and over again, but I kept trying, and that's the difference. So we all fail at some. It's just what we do once we have.
Totally agree with you, man. Now, hey, before we end off the podcast, I think it's we've been talking quite a long time, man. Totally enjoyed myself with this.
Yeah.
Hey, okay, so before we close off the podcast, we always have one segment, all right, which is the EPIC Questionnaire. Just a rapid fire session that I'd like to ask a couple of questions with you. Now, are you ready?
Okay.
All right, let's begin.
Let's do it.
One word that you love the most.
Oh, capricious.
One word that you dislike the most.
Discombobulated.
And if you could have a conversation with one person, fictional, non-fictional, dead or alive, who would that be?
Oh, wow. Okay. Fictional, non-fictional, dead or alive. Right now, it's going to have to be Patrick Mahomes, quarterback, Kansas City Chiefs.
But why?
Because I like his winning mentality. I love his fighting spirit. I love his never say die attitude.
Cool. And now, you've been around the world. What's your favorite dish to eat?
Okay, now you're putting me on the spot. Okay. My favorite dish to eat. Okay, so I would have to say it's a mac and cheese from what's called La Fiesta in Ho Chi Minh City.
Mm.
It's just a random Mexican place in Ho Chi Minh City. They make excellent cheese.
Wonderful. Hey, I've there's one thing I really want to try, and that's biltong. I don't know what biltong is, but I want to try it.
Ooh. So biltong is like beef jerky, basically.
Right.
And it's usually just jerky made like African style. Yeah.
So it's not a bull's tongue, right?
No, no, no. It's not a bull's tongue. No, no. It's just they take they take the beef and they cure it and preserve it and kind of dry it, spices, and then it becomes like jerky. It's not an actual bull's tongue. No.
I'm ignorant, so I'll ask you questions. Now, top 5 things to do in Vietnam.
Oh wow, gee, okay. I'm gonna disappoint all people. Okay, top 5 things to do now. Number 5, going on a boat trip down the Mekong. That's number 1 for me. I think that's really beautiful. I think they shot the movie King Kong somewhere down that way. Number 4, need to travel more in Vietnam. I definitely need to travel more. But number 4, I've heard the Lat is really beautiful in Vietnam. Number 3, I am going to say Da Nang. I like Da Nang. Simple, effective, on the beach. And they got this dragon that breathes fire. I think at 8 p.m. every night. It's pretty cool. Number two, I would say Hoi An, and that's the old imperial city. It's really beautiful. It's full of lanterns. At night, their lanterns float in the water. Really amazing. And then number one, I will say it's not because this is the most beautiful place in Vietnam thing, but the first rock star experience I experienced was a place called Joe's Cafe in Mui Ne in Vietnam. Arrived and they took care of me. They had a hotel ready for me. They had food ready for me. I was paid. They checked with me to see if I was okay, and I met the owner's family, and I just stayed on a private beach base. It was beautiful. My own sort of little private experience.
Cool, man. That's so awesome. On your end, what does retirement
Yeah.
look like to you?
Retirement.
Is there even such a thing?
Retirement looks to well, look, I mean, right now I was gonna say I've started on my way being into building things that I want to be able to do. But retirement for me is me sitting on a beach and then maybe going to studio, record a song, releasing it, and then going on a tour in another part of the world, and then still doing the things that I love. And I'm realizing more and more that I can now do those things with technology. So retirement for me still means doing what I love, and just maybe just a little more peace and. But I'll still gig, I'll still write books and stuff. And, I mean, Johnny Cash he was brave, and he was still holding a car basically. So I'll be doing the things that I love for sure.
Nice. And I think you covered this earlier on, but how do you want to be remembered, and what's your legacy?
Oh wow. I think that my how I would like to remember my legacy would be here lays a guy that the word impossible meant nothing to him.
Sweet. Okay, with that, we're going to close off the EPIC podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on Edric, Poon and Company together with Stewart Gatsi today. And if you're interested in listening to his music on Songs on My Bike, it's available on Spotify, YouTube Music, and quite a number. Go check it out in the link below, as well as his book. I'll be adding in a link for you to go check it out. If you can, please support Stewart because it is really an amazing, amazing book. Now, with that, thanks so much, Stewart. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
I appreciate it, Edric. Thank you so much.